Good morning, Year 6. This is Wednesday, the 3rd of February 2021, and we're here for another week for some work about mental health in our PSHE session today. So, for today's lesson, Year 6, you will need the sheets that you've been sent. There are quite a few in the pack. There's 6 in the pack. You've just got them all printed off. We don't need all of them, but it's useful just to have them in front of you. So there's one PDF with all the sheets that you will need for today. So give yourself a chance to get the resources you need and to write today's date and title, which is Can I find out how feelings and emotions are affected and can be managed. So pause the video now to get yourself equipped and ready to start this session. Okay, well, moving on. Last week we were talking about what mental health was and how we can recognise some of the signs of it being affected, and also things and solutions that we can start to think about to help people who have mental health issues. Now, we recognise that mental health is an issue, and it can be something that you might be experiencing or people around you might be experiencing perhaps this current time or difficult times within their lives. So just a reminder that there are people in school that you can talk to if you are concerned. We looked at these definitions last week, and the World Health Organization described mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realises his or her own potential, they can cope with the normal stresses of life and can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contributions to his or her community. And NHS England saying it's about how we think, feel and behave. So just bear those in mind as we go through today's session. Okay, we're going to start off with this scenario. This is a girl called Sasha, and I'm just going to read it through to you, and you might want to have it paused on the screen so you can have a look at it and read through it again, because we're going to be referring to this several points during the session today. So a few weeks ago, Sasha's mum explained that there were going to be some changes coming. Sasha's family moved house to a completely new area. Sasha had to leave the local street dance club and start a new school as well. Sasha feels terribly lonely and doesn't know anyone in her new area. Everyone seems to have their friendship groups already, and Sasha's mum is always busy. Sasha is spending more and more time alone and feels like things will never change. So just looking at the scenario here and thinking about the situation that Sasha's in, you might reflect back to last week when we were looking at the mental health thermometer and the feelings and emotions that she might be experiencing at this current point. So having looked at this scenario of the current situation that Sasha's in, we just might need to think about what might be affecting Sasha's mental health and well-being, her feelings and emotions at this particular time. Just pause the video and have a think how she might be feeling at this current moment. So we're going to look now at, remind ourselves of the mental health thermometer and how she might be feeling currently and how she might change in her feelings over time. And we're going to do this by looking at one of your resource sheets, and this resource sheet is actually entitled in your pack 2B Emotion Timeline with Suggestions. There is one without suggestions, and you might want to fill that in as a bit of a challenge yourself, but this one gives us the situation that Sasha will be in at various points over time. So I'm basing our session on these, but you can challenge yourself and create what you think would be in these boxes on the screen. So as you can see, we've got how she's feeling at the time, her situation at the time, a few weeks later, a few months later, a year later, and a few years later. And we need to recognise how different feelings grow and change, pass or get stronger with time. So we need to consider how the situation and Sasha's feelings might change over time and record these at the bottom here. So as you would go along on your sheet, just have a think about what Sasha's feelings might be at the current point that this timeline is indicating. So pause the video now, have a chance to fill in that sheet for yourself with your own ideas about what Sasha's feelings might be. So having done that activity now, you may well have just indicated one of these areas on the mental health thermometer that you feel that Sasha might be feeling at the time, or you may have elaborated, and those need to be sent in to your class teacher so they can see what you have done. Having that in mind, we're now going to be thinking about how we could support and help Sasha and yourself and others in your family, perhaps, when they have areas whether they are struggling or feeling quite unwell in their mental health and well-being, and in those struggling areas. So we need to have a look now at some of the strategies that might be helpful for people who are feeling unwell and struggling with their own mental health and well-being. Now, I've got a picture of the slide which is from your pack, which has got some strategies there. I'm actually going to just show you from the pack itself because I think it's a little bit clearer for you to see. So it's resource sheet 3, helpful for mental health list. There are lots of things here that can be helpful for helping you if you or somebody else is feeling that they're really struggling with their own mental health and well-being. Some of them are quick fixes, some of them are places where you can get advice, some of them are things that you could do to support others if they are struggling. So just give you a chance to have a look through just to see some of these strategies. I won't read them all through, but this is a really useful list and will help you in the next couple of activities. So with that list in front of you, so that you can see, we're going to go back to Sasha's current state of well-being and mental health at the very beginning of our timeline of events. And I'd like you to have a think about some suggestions that you could give Sasha at this point that would be able to help her in this area where she's going to be struggling and perhaps getting quite unwell in her own mental health and well-being, to support her and to have some suggestions to make it more positive, remembering that the feelings that she's currently having will eventually pass over time. So looking at this scenario, and I've got the scenario back up here, I've got the strategies right next door to, although it's quite hard for you to perhaps see all of them, with the resource sheet you have, you might be able to see that a bit clearer. I just want you to pause the video and think about what things might you suggest that will help Sasha manage her current situation. Okay, so you may have suggested that she keeps a diary of her feelings. Perhaps you've put down that she needs to be talking to her mum about how she feels, perhaps talking to a teacher. Another suggestion you might have made is joining a school club to make some new friends, going for a walk in the new area, and just having be positively thinking about the future and remembering that this feeling will pass eventually, and over time will get better. So those are some of the suggestions you might have thought through. That's what I was thinking I'd give advice to Sasha at this current point. You might have others as well. Also in the pack that you've been given, there are a set of resourceful advice cards. There's quite a few there. We only need you to pick one, or you can do more if you have time. But what you need to do is, and I've just got some examples of two of them up here, is you need to read through the scenario. And so this is an example of how you might complete this activity for one of the scenarios that are on that activity sheet. So you need to make a suggestion for the person. This is dear cross and dear worried, but something they could be doing every day to remove this sense of feeling angry and cross the entire time, and on their mental health thermometer feeling that they're struggling and unwell. So something they could be doing every day. And to help you with that, you can have a look back at this resource sheet here with some of the ideas of the things that they need to be doing every day to keep themselves mentally stable and their mental health and well-being able to cope with this current situation that they are in. So then you need to be thinking about, in the moment or when their feelings get stronger, in this scenario someone who's getting quite cross, what can they do? What advice would you give them? Once again, look back at this list, and there's some things they can do in the moment when it all becomes too much and that they're really struggling. And then make a suggestion from the list as well. That will give you some suggestions. You might have some of your own for someone that they could talk to when they feel this way. So something they're going to do every day, something they're going to do when they particularly get into the moment, when their feelings get very much stronger, and someone that you could suggest to them to talk to. So it's quite an easy form. So you will probably be able to do, or definitely be able to do one, if not more, to think of some advice that you would give these people in their situations that they are in. So the last bit of this session today is going to be thinking about support networks, and just a reminder really that sometimes nothing in particular happens to cause a mental health concern. Moving to the struggling and unwell areas, it might not be that it's a particular event, but feelings can sometimes develop without a specific cause. But if you're worried, you need to get advice and help, and you need to know who your support network is, the people you can trust and turn to when you need to. And it's important to remember that they may help you to keep someone's mental health in the healthy and coping area by being part of their support network also. Remember, at different times in your life and different challenges and different events, your feelings and emotions can change, and your mental health and well-being can be affected in different ways. So if we just look at our character that we've been referring to throughout this session, Sasha, she is sort of starting to build up to help her cope through situations where she might be struggling unwell, a network of support and people that she can rely on and talk with when she feels that she's struggling. So what I need you to do now on a piece of plain paper is obviously write your name in the middle, and around your name you're going to start populating it with people who be your own support network for you. And I would suggest you do it in this way, that you put your name in the middle, and as you start thinking of people, you can put the ones that are really close support network to you nearer your name, the ones the support you might need to reach out to that is not so close to you, but you might need to get to that point a little bit further away. So you can sort of see where your immediate support network is and your wider support network might be. So that's your job. Now obviously if we're doing this in class, we'd want to keep that like quite private to yourself, so you might just put your name and some symbols which represent the various support people around you. So you can do that at home. Obviously, as this is a thing that you're emailing in to your teachers, it's quite a private conversation between you and your teacher. But if you'd rather than writing words and people's names down, you want to write some symbols that represent those particular support network for you, that's also fine. So I'm just going to go through the Sasha example for you, and then your job to do, or your final job to do, is to do one for yourself for your own support network. So you can have a list of a support network that you know, so that you can go to if you are struggling or feeling overwhelmed and your mental health and well-being is being affected. So we might have that Sasha's mum, who's obviously been with her quite a lot, this is one of her close people that she relies on. For some of you, that might be one that's a bit further away. You might say that your best friends that you've now made are a really good support network for you, and they are closer to you, and there's people you might turn to. We've got Uncle Joe, that Sasha might turn to Granny Mac, who may in some ways be a closer network than some of the other people in her family. It's really up to you to decide what works, what the situation is for you in your own life. And we've got stepdad Billy, so he might be a support network for Sasha. He might have just come on the scene, so we're not quite sure where that links in, so he might be further out on his support network. Currently you might have your teacher as a close-up if you're in school, or someone who's a little bit more remote, but there is obviously that person that's part of your support network also. And also important to remind you that there's lots of children's websites and helplines such as Childline, which can provide support when the other support networks are not there to support you and you need some further, more professional advice for the way that you're feeling, particularly if you're struggling and unwell. So if you've chosen not to write names, you might write a little symbol. You might, for Granny Mac, maybe she's your granny that is part of your support network. She always makes cakes with you. Maybe you just put a picture of a cake to symbolise that she's part of your support network. For Childline here, you might just want to do a picture of a telephone or a website or computer. Teacher, you might want to have a symbol for a teacher. I'll let you choose what that symbol for your teacher might be. And best friends, you might just do some smiley faces to represent them. So it's entirely up to you whether you put the names down. Obviously, please don't put your full names down, just first names, please, just so we can get a sense that you've got your support network around you. So pause the video and create your own support network. Okay, that marks the end of our session today. I hope to speak with you and develop these ideas in our final session next Wednesday. Goodbye for now.